action outcome statement, use reflective practices for formative evaluation, is more to do with the mentoring arrangement. In other words, it is led by the mentor. Now, in a mentoring relationship, that tends to be led by the mentee. But today's action outcome is about the mentoring arrangement. And what I want to do is just break down some of the key words that are here. And the first one that I'd like to start with is evaluation. Evaluation is one of those really important elements of the workplace, and it tends to be thought about at the end of something. And one of the pieces that I'd like to really emphasize today is evaluation needs to be built in across the whole project, and in this case, the mentoring arrangement. It's there from the start to the end. And the formative part of it is what's important here, because evaluation is about to improve something that's in motion, that is already in use. And the formative part is to form, to continue to form, to give feed forward, to be able to improve, focus, and strengthen, in this case, the mentoring arrangement. So it helps to form it up. And it's to continue people on the path to know, yeah, this is the path we want to go on. It could be to improve the tools that you're using in the arrangement. And that's an important element as well. So it's very much about this inform to improve what is actually going on at this point in time. So that's the evaluation, formative evaluation element. But there's something I want to just make a comparison here called the summative evaluation. Summative, summary, is that there's a point in time where you've got to summarize what's happened, and that's the summative evaluation. What is it that you've learned as a result of doing it? And so at the end of a mentoring arrangement, you would do a summative evaluation and sort of look at what it is that you've learned, how you've advanced yourself, whether as a mentor, as a mentee, because it is a two-way trusted arrangement. And that is an important element. So I just make that distinction. So formative evaluation is continuously happening. Summative tends to be at the end. Now, that's a high level. You can dive into those two terms a little bit more, but that's a good start for us here at this point in time. Now, the reflective practices piece. Now, herein is where we've got to really pay some attention, because reflection is about giving due consideration, considerable thought to something. It's not just a whimsical, oh yeah, that seems to be fine. No, it's a little bit deeper. You'll hear language from Doug and I that goes sort of deeper and richer about what's happening. And in the reflection, it's that deeper reflection that is taking place. And therefore, there's practices that are associated with it. And there are a number of different kind of practices that you can use. And I'm just going to give you a very simple one at this point. And it's one that I use all the time. And it's really 3 questions, and they go like this. So what? Now what? What else? And the so what is really about, well, where do we go from here? The now what is, what are we actually going to do? And what else is just to remind ourselves, did we cover all of what we need to cover right now? Or, oh, hey, maybe let's just go back and relook at this piece. And that's that formative element. Let's just go back and relook at this and make sure it's the pathway, the tools that we want to follow. Now, there's 2 types of reflection, and we could go into these deeper and deeper and deeper, but I'm just going to give you a highlight here. And then in the show notes, the show more, there's a Wikipedia site that is listed on the video where it gives you a little bit more information on reflective practices. Now, the 2 elements I want to give you is what's called reflection in and reflection on. Reflection in is when you're in the mentoring arrangement. Let's tie it back to mentoring. And you're reflecting in what's going on, and you're looking and feeling and sensing what's taking place. Reflection on is usually you taking a look back at what's taken place and say, oh, okay, this is what happened, and what did I learn from that? However, one of the things that Doug and I always chat about is, can you get to a point where reflection in and reflection on are happening at the same time? Now, that is a lot of practice. I'm still working on it, but there are times when in my facilitative mentoring I'm doing with people, like, oh, hang on, I'm actually doing reflection in and reflection on. This is great, because I'm in there, but I'm also sort of standing and looking at what's taking place and going, wow, this is really interesting. And I get an opportunity to leverage both ways of looking at the consideration, the deeper thinking about what's taking place. And I think that that's a really great element to practice as a mentor. Now, Doug, I know you probably have some thoughts you want to add. And then one of the things I'd like to do is just take a look at a list of benefits around this reflective practice and mentoring. So any thoughts you want to share at this point?
Just the aspect of how important, and we've already talked about that, but is how important reflection is as part of the mentoring process, and part of your, as a mentor, it's part of your continuous learning that you need to be doing on, on a constant basis, continuous learning. So like for me, and I think of a particular example where I was working with an individual that was very, very closed off, wasn't open to sharing a lot of what the challenges were personally and professionally that they were dealing with. And I used storytelling as a means to be able to break that wall down. And once I started to do that, then he was a lot more receptive to sharing some of the challenges personally and professionally that he was dealing with. And I came at it from, at the end of the mentoring session, as I was leaving and heading home, I always ask myself 3 questions similar to what you had talked about. Mine are the ones that I use that work well for me, is what went well, what didn't go well, and what will I do differently next year, hence the continuous learning. And when I took and reflected back on the conversation he and I had, I saw that he was somewhat intimidated by the mentoring process. And so I had to reflect forward to be able to say, so now what am I going to do to help alleviate his concern and create that safe place for him to be able to share what we needed to get to. And so that's, from my perspective, that's where that kind of all fits in.